For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings so we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Bad feeling about this.
Welcome to episode 242 of Blue Harvest. I'm your host, Hawes Burkhart.
And I'm your host, Will Witten.
Aw, shit, he's back. How was your trip, buddy?
It was great. It was absolutely great. Got a taste of the Big Apple.
Man, that's cool. That's really cool, buddy. Well, we missed you last week. Glad you had a good trip and whatnot. You were extolling the virtues of New York pizza to me before we started recording.
I had a couple different slices from a couple different places. They
Yep.
were all great. One of them was Ray's on Times Square. And there are several Rays, and they all claim to be the original. But who knows?
So, what's did you have any other culinary delights in New York?
I ate at a restaurant called STK. It was probably the most expensive steak I've ever eaten in my life, but the best steak I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, really?
I had brunch. Awesome. I had the smoked salmon toast with poached eggs on it. Great. I ate at the bagel shop. I had lox spread on my bagel. It was great. You know, just the New York stuff.
Yeah.
I ate street vendor food. I had a gyro from the
Oh,
street
man.
vendor. And,
You know how much I like a goddamn street vendor.
oh, man, it was delicious. Probably one of the tastiest meals I had.
Man, I don't know what it is about
And a falafel on rice.
food being served from a truck or stand always catches my attention.
Mm.
You know, one of my favorite places in Birmingham is the fucking taco truck.
I know. Dos Moros Locos? Is that
Taco.
the right one?
Taco Moro Loco.
Taco Moro Loco. There we go.
They started off as a truck. Then now they have a truck and a restaurant. Maybe two restaurants.
Wow.
Yeah. I still think it's best from the truck. I don't know. Maybe it's something in my brain. But something like every time I'm like, oh, this is better than the last time I had it. And the last time
Something
I had it was
about
the
the
restaurant.
flavor of that griddle
Yeah. It's probably.
in that truck specifically.
So we have a couple interesting things to talk about this week. Not nearly as jam-packed of a news week as last week.
Right.
Last week was one of the biggest news weeks I can remember, and it wasn't like necessarily any one huge mind-blowing thing. It was just so many different things.
Bam, 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 bam.
But we got some cool stuff to talk about this week, including getting Will's thoughts on the Return of the Clone Wars and Episode 2 of the new season.
Boy, am I ready to share them.
Yeah, because you were doing a little Clone Wars catching up before it came back.
I was, yeah, on the Disney Plus app. There's this thing that's like, you know, the essential Clone Wars. You know, and it kind of skips through, but it hits the major story arcs.
Cool.
I don't know if you've seen that on the Disney Plus
I haven't.
thing, but it's really good. It does the whole Ahsoka trial and the Sypha Dyas arc. And, it starts in the first season with the crucial stuff, but it gives you, I don't know, it's like that Dragon Ball Z condensed
Yes.
show. The playlist feels a lot like that. You get the condensed version of what went on, and I basically needed a refresher before I started season 7.
And it sounds like that's perfect for that. I didn't even know they did that. That's a really good idea.
It is. It was really handy
to give everybody a nice catch up. And did it feature like the Mandalorian stuff and the Darksaber? So
yep.
Not only did you get caught up in time for season 7 of the Clone Wars, I'm sure it also, if you weren't aware of the Mandalorian stuff, would be good if you needed like a
absolutely
crash course after seeing the first season of the Mandalorian.
Refresh my mind of what happened with Darth Maul and Savage Opress and
worst name.
Yeah, right. And Bo-Katan and like, because I couldn't really remember who Bo-Katan was, but now that I've watched it, I was like, I get it. She's like the surviving legit member of Death Watch. She is Satine's sister.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. And then at the end of Rebels, she's given the Darksaber. Sabine gives her the Darksaber. And that's the last we see of the Darksaber until the end of season.
Gideon.
Right. So something happened with Bo-Katan and that Darksaber. There's some answers to be had there. So before we jump into the hardcore discussion of what's gone on since last week, remember that you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Blue Harvest Podcast. You can email us at blueharvestpodcast@gmail.com. It's where you send any voice messages or emails that you want us to address. Or maybe you just want to send us a kick-ass Kia D meme. Thank you, Coda Molar. Thank you, Coda. Sorry, Coda. Like us on or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Blue Harvest Pod. Check out our new YouTube page or channel. It's not a page, it's a channel.
Which my boy Hawes has been producing some of the freshest content this side of the internet.
So, yeah, Rick emailed in about that last week. For anybody that's been like checking out on Twitter and Instagram, because that's where I post most of the stupid, where I'm trying to be funny Star Wars videos. I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of them together to post. I don't want to keep posting little 30-second, 45-second video memes on YouTube. I want to try to put a compilation together. So eventually they'll all be strung together. And I'll say that a couple that I created this week have not hit public consumption. I had to workshop them and run them by a couple of people. I don't know about a couple of them. So yeah, check out our YouTube. And I'm going to try and film some actual stuff this week if I have the time. It's been crazy with work and podcasting and trying to do some Patreon stuff. So I haven't really had a chance to sit down and do much filming for YouTube, but I'm going to try to get to it this week. And if you like our podcast and you would like to support our podcast, why don't you check out our Patreon? We post all kinds of bonus shows over there. Cooking with Will, Star Wars Year by Podcast with our buddy Steele, Masters of Harvest Cossey with King Tom, Podgilla Rosso with Emily Lind, Steve versus the Prequels. Steve and I have got some ideas percolating for some new Patreon content featuring the man himself, Steve Cobra. Spaced Out with the Barbarian, if Jeremy ever hits our fucking specially made Space Barbarian trap that I have set up in my backyard.
Still hadn't hit it.
No, he's been a busy guy. I probably need put a couple of fucking...
You need a fresh cold snack.
Yeah, I should probably switch up the cold snack and put in some fresh fucking sick doomy riffs in there. Those could probably be recycled. Maybe I didn't put the right ones in there.
Maybe like a banjo slide or two.
Ooh. Anyways, all kinds of amazing fun bonus podcasts are posted over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Blue Harvest Podcast. And that's the business. Business was adequate this week.
It was good. It was businesslike, which is what you need it to be.
For so long, the business was the exact same thing that I just became Business Bot 3000.
Well, I mean, it helps, I think, our long-term listeners when we switch it up because they're like, they're a connoisseur of business, much like myself.
Right.
I like a good business. And when the business is good, it hits the sweet spot.
So, I didn't get to tell. Well, so last week, before you went out of town, before you went to New York, you texted me to see if we could record early on Tuesday night. And we had plans. We were going to see Kevin Smith that night.
How did that go?
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, the time I went with you and Steve to see Kevin Smith was one of the greatest, trips of my life.
Dude, I just remember laughing all the way there, just goofing off and then having fun. Yeah, it was a great trip. But we got to see Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That was the purpose of this specific tour.
Oh.
And I got to say, I laughed a lot. It was definitely... I'm interested to see it at home because it played very much like a crowd movie. It was a crowd pleaser where, we're sitting in a theater full of the Kevin Smith faithful, right?
Right.
Know all the references, listen to the podcast, get all the little inside jokes. So it was just cheers and laughter for the entire hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, whatever the movie is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I laughed. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'll say this. If you're not big on Kevin Smith and you're not a fan of Jay and Silent Bob, and when I say a fan, enough to have seen the movie a couple of times and get the odd reference here and there, I can't really see someone else enjoying it. It is Kevin Smith references the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, someone who really enjoys Kevin Smith, it was perfect. But I just can't see it playing for an audience that's not super well versed.
Snoochie booches.
Right. But tons of really funny, cool cameos.
Is Alanis Morissette in it?
Oh, shit. She's mentioned. It comes up. Several times in the movie. They're and I talked to God, who conveniently looks like Alanis Morissette or something like that. There's a reference or two like that, but I can't remember if she herself is in the movie. There was a couple of sort of expected references like that I kind of thought we'd see that weren't in there, and then there were some that were pretty big surprises. I'll say I was bummed to not have Mark Hamill come back as Cockknocker.
Yeah.
That was one that I was kind of expecting that didn't happen. Anyways, you want to talk some Star Wars?
Let's do.
All right, well, let's get caught up on Will's quick thoughts on a few things. But before we do that, I have to make a correction that I'm real bummed to make. So last week, we were discussing, King Tom and I, how there was a rumor going around that both Robert Rodriguez and James Mangold had directed some of The Mandalorian Season 2. And it wasn't very specific as if it was, they got their own episodes, or if they just directed sequences, or what. But that was the rumor. Robert Rodriguez and James Mangold. Now, Will, does the name James Mangold remind you, does that spring any memories for you in Star Wars history?
Does that have something to do with the Boba Fett movie?
Yes, he was the director who was rumored to be working on the Boba Fett movie. It is, I remember, you know how you have these moments in time that you can remember with crystal clear clarity? Crystal clear clarity. We were in California when we went to hang out for the Solo premiere and stuff. And it was the day that Solo came out. And we were driving around with our buddy Aaron Boyd, me, you, and Jesse in the rental car. And we stopped. I can't remember even where it was, what town it was we stopped in. But we stopped to check out that downtown area where we checked out
the comic book store.
That comic book store and that toy store and stuff.
Yeah.
And when we got out of the car, I was looking at my phone because it had blown up. It had a bunch of notifications, and it was James Mangold to direct Boba Fett spinoff movie. So that's when that news dropped, and obviously that didn't happen. Solo underperformed, kind of stuck a fork in Star Wars spinoff movies.
Yeah.
But with him being announced as a possible director for Mandalorian season or episode in season 2 or whatever, immediately my mind goes into conspiracy mode. And I think, oh, well, clearly that's going to be something to do with Boba Fett. The guy who was going to be doing a Boba Fett movie is directing The Mandalorian, like, and they kind of hinted that maybe Boba Fett was in season 1, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So excited. I was like, this is just another piece of information to add to my Boba Fett conspiracy. I am so excited. Well, the next day after King Tom and I record, James Mangold gets on Twitter and he's like, this story's fake. I definitely didn't direct any of The Mandalorian.
Oh, man, that's disappointing.
I mean, I don't know.
The internet really wants James Mangold to do a Star Wars something.
Yeah, and him being involved with the Boba Fett thing. Oh, God damn it. She's doing it on purpose now. Jesse just scared me again. Somebody messaged me over the weekend and said, is Jesse purposely trying to scare you every podcast now? It's because of the stupid way we have this table now. My back is to the living room, and so I can't see people coming up on me.
Maybe she's just trying to keep you in good cardiovascular health.
That's not how you do it. She's probably trying to kill me.
That sweet, sweet insurance money.
Yeah, right. For that insurance money, you know what that insurance money is? Star Wars collectibles. So when I die,
hope you like selling off rare Rhodians.
When I die, you can judge Jesse's involvement in the death by how quickly that shit shows up on like Facebook Marketplace and eBay and shit.
She's got a giant collection of Star Wars collectibles, all going for like $5,000 for the whole thing.
Oh, it's probably more than that, buddy. You'll see her tweet. I'm sorry to say that Hawes passed away from fright today. Thoughts and prayers. And then like 2 minutes.
Here's the link for the estate sale.
No. And then that'll say posted 2 minutes ago. And the tweet right above that is, hey, anybody know how much Hot Toys are worth? She's standing here looking at me with this smile that either says, shut up, or you figured me out. I have an Excel
sheet with all those values on it.
You know, one time, to be completely serious, one time Jesse and I were having a conversation, and this was not a joke. This was not me being funny. I was like, if I ever get like gravely ill, we're going to have to sit down and I'm going to have to tell you the value of all this shit so you don't get ripped off.
That is morbid.
No, man, that's looking after Jesse.
But I mean, valid.
Yeah, she said, you're giving me a project in my grief. A project that you could put your mind into to keep yourself, like, motivated. I mean, yeah, I'm not around anymore, but shit, you could buy a hell of a nice big screen TV. And then I'll haunt the TV, Ghost in the Machine style.
She'll go to Galaxy's Edge and sprinkle your ashes.
Shit, if my ashes get spread at Galaxy's Edge before I get to go to Galaxy's Edge, I'll haunt that goddamn park. I will be so mad. You think Rise of the Resistance breaks down a lot now? Wait till I'm haunting that place.
Disneyland would have its own crippled ghost.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Oh, man. So where were we? James Mangold's not doing The Mandalorian, and I'm bummed. All right, buddy. So the High Republic stuff got announced while you were gone.
Yeah, I know.
What'd you think about that?
Like, it got announced like the day after we wrapped the week before. I thought it was great. It teased me because some of the concept art, one of the guys in there looked like David Harbour, like almost just like him. I was like, is he going to be a Jedi? That would be really cool. But there's no, I'm sure that, he's just a coincidence, but
yeah,
it's cool. It's, it's what I wanted. I want to see Jedi in their prime. We really have only seen Jedi at their fall and their lowest. I mean, that's kind of what the original and sequel trilogy eras are. Pretty much Jedi at their very lowest.
And the prequels aren't that. They're very low list, but they're already on the decline.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The prequels are pretty much the story of their fall, their decline and fall. And to see them at their peak will be awesome.
Yeah. So, as of right now, strictly a publishing thing. Project Luminous was always going to be a publishing thing, but, there were rumors that from that other work would spring movies and whatnot. And so far, no indication of anything like that. Just a handful of books and a couple of comic series, at least to kick off Wave 1. I'm hoping it turns out really cool. It's got me really excited to check out books and comics and stuff again.
Right. I like that there's this new sandbox without these giant ancient trees you got to plant around. It's just flat soil ready to start from the ground up.
Yeah. So did you read much of the sort of the thought behind it? Like, for instance,
I'm not sure.
One of the sort of catchphrases that they were using to describe it, and this is the one that when I heard it, I was completely in from this moment on. They said, Jedi Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Count me in.
Arthurian, Camelot Jedi Temple. Yes. Yes,
sir. And there was a couple of other things that didn't come out in the official announcement, but came out through, Star Wars doing their Super Sleuth thing online and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, it seems like the whole story gets kicked off by an event, a mysterious disaster, galaxy-wide disaster, when all of the sudden every ship in hyperspace is just ripped out of hyperspace without warning.
Okay.
Not much more is known, but it seems like when the synopsis from the books and stuff came out, that was a common theme, sort of the starting point. Not much more is known by that, but it sounds like it could be a fucked up kind of incident. It sounds pretty intriguing too.
It does.
And then there's
to
also
be galaxy wide.
Yeah, and then there's sort of the threat that the new antagonists or sort of menace. They're called the Nile. And they're described as basically space Vikings. And not a whole lot more to go on that either. So it'll be interesting. One other thing. Another tagline or whatever catchphrase that they were sort of passing around was when they were talking about the stories that they wanted to tell in this era, one of the questions that got them excited is, what do the Jedi fear? That's right. Cool. No idea what that's going to turn out to be, but that's a cool concept.
That is a cool concept.
But yeah. It was good old the High Republic. Looking forward to seeing that.
It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a good way to keep you up to date on that stuff when it goes down. The comics, I know, easy enough to follow. But as far as the more time-consuming aspects, the books and stuff, we'll figure something out for that. So, speaking of which, the last issue of The Rise of Kylo Ren is out next week.
It's sad that that's going to be the last issue because I think I've said it before that the story had legs. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get you don't want to go too overboard and I guess create too much backstory when you may have other plans in the works, but...
Yeah, I can totally see that. It's been so well received, that comic. Like, I think the first issue was announced to be going in for a fourth printing this week. So it's clearly doing very well. And you got to imagine they'll see that and continue on in some format, whether it be a follow-up comic miniseries or a book or something.
Right.
Okay. So we had something kind of weird happen this week. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the Clone Wars. it seems like some details, some small details at least, about the next Star Wars game leaked out online this week.
Really?
Yeah. So what happened was the European store, digital store for the PlayStation Network, listed a game called Star Wars Project Maverick. Now, the way the PlayStation Store works is they can put stuff up early and it's not available to the public. But people have figured out how to see stuff before it goes live. For instance, earlier this year, people found a listing for Resident Evil 3's remake on the PlayStation Store before it went live, and it leaked out. Screenshots.
These data miners that are able to see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing that happened was the Final Fantasy VII remake demo was put up on the store early, and people found out about that, and it didn't release until this week. People were talking about that thing like 2 months ago. So these things happen from time to time is what I'm trying to say. There's some precedent of things being put up on the PlayStation Store early and then data miners finding out about it. And that
you would think that would irritate the properties involved.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does, especially if it's something like Resident Evil 3 remake that hasn't been announced yet,
Yeah,
or this.
I'm sure Capcom's like, what the hell, PlayStation Store?
Mm-hmm. You got to imagine any leak in anything like that is pretty annoying to the parent company. But we had this leak for Star Wars Project Maverick. Not a lot to go on. No screenshots. There is a sort of title splash. Sort of like a header picture. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when you go to the Xbox store and it's got an image at the top for the game you're downloading or whatever.
Right.
And it looks cool. It actually, something about it kind of reminds me of the logo for Solo, the spinoff movie Solo. I'll actually send it to you now. And that's about all we know is Project Maverick, and that it was put up early on the PlayStation Store. There has been some speculation wondering if this is maybe a beta for this game that's coming sometime in the next couple of months or something. But, you know, we have no officially announced Star Wars game coming in the future. What we have is we know that EA Motive is working on a Star Wars game. That's this. And we know that Respawn is working on some sort of follow-up to Jedi Fallen Order.
Motive, which studio has that produced before?
Motive, in the context of Star Wars, they helped work on Battlefront 2.
Because I thought I had seen that before.
Yeah, EA Motive helped develop Battlefront 2.
There's a couple things I'm picking up here.
Okay.
That is an Empire, like a New Hope era Star Destroyer.
Correct.
And they are what look like a New Hope era X-Wings beneath the A in Maverick.
Okay.
And then there's, you know, what I can only assume is volcanic activity, which might imply Mustafar, if not just some sick black on red, you know, theme.
Yeah, I can't really tell because it looks like some of those. It also looks kind of like asteroids.
It does kind of.
So,
you're right.
I don't know. It could be Mustafar. There definitely seems to be some sort of lava splash or something coming up from the bottom. Mm-hmm. Now, if you remember, recently when we were talking about future Star Wars games, we knew that EA Motive was supposedly working on a quote-unquote smaller, more unique Star Wars game experience. And we kind of wondered, like, does that mean we're looking at a digitally only title that's not going to be $60? You know, because in the realm of games now these days, you know, you have your $60 AAA titles, and then you have smaller experiences that don't cost as much.
Right.
There's a strong argument to be made that the original Battlefront from 2015 should have been like a $30 game.
Yeah.
Even if it was digitally only. And I do wonder if that's what we're looking at here. I get this sneaky suspicion, and I don't know why. If maybe it's the Project Maverick, and that makes me think of fucking Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder if this is some sort of flight simulator or arcade flight game, maybe in the vein of the old Rogue Squadron games.
That's where my first thought went to, but there's no way to tell.
It's where mine went.
I mean, a Maverick is like a flying ace, right?
Right.
Solo.
And then there's also, you think, well, you got to wonder if this is for some sort of beta that's going to be announced to be coming. Is there a multiplayer involved? Are we looking at a multiplayer only title that's just dogfighting, ship flying? I tried to do some research on it today to find out what aspects of Battlefront EA Motive worked on. Because what I was hoping to find out is, they did Starfighter Assault and all the ship combat stuff in Battlefront 2.
Okay.
I did not find that out. That's what I was hoping. Because if that's the case, then you could see where working on that could lead to something expanded from that concept. Will?
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I was right here. Okay. My connection must have gone funny.
It's all good. It might have been my internet on my side for all we know. But yeah, I guess if it's going up on the PlayStation Store, there's a good chance that we should find out before too long, I would think.
Yeah.
And that would make me think this is a release for this year. I had read some speculation and stuff. I don't know if it was in speculation or honest to God reporting. I can't remember that the next game wouldn't be until 2021, with the Fallen Order sequel falling in 2022. But I have no indication of whether that's the case or not. You would think that if they're putting something up this early on the PlayStation, that it'll be on the PlayStation Network, that it'll be out sooner than next year.
You would think for this far ahead.
Yeah.
Because it's unnecessary to load that stuff on. I mean, I guess the whole point is so that you don't crash the server. Or you're just super ahead of time.
Okay. So I wish I knew more about how this stuff works.
Because my assumption is there'll still be patches even between now and then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I've seen some people wonder a few different things. For one, is this going to be a multiplayer beta that's going up that we'll be able to try?
Make a lot of sense,
right? Or is this an internal beta for the company that's making the game? Like, do they load it onto PlayStation Network and only allow access to people in the company or something so they can test out their game on the PlayStation Network? So that's how they play
against each other.
Could it be that? I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works well enough to make even slightly informed speculation on that. But you would hope, even if it's not set to be revealed soon, that this would lead to them saying something.
Right.
It's still early days, and there's still a lot of going back and forth about it. But I was trying to think if there's any... So E3 is still 3 months away in June. And then the Game Developers Conference that was going to be going on, I believe in April, it was canceled because of coronavirus fears.
Yikes.
Maybe that was going on this month. It's either this month or next month. So maybe they had planned on revealing it at Game Developers Conference. I don't know. But it is a mystery. I'll be excited to see what it is, though.
You and me both.
All right.
Because that Starfighter Assault is my jam.
Yeah, and I can see a situation where that separated out and then expanded on.
Tony Hawk's meets Starfighter Assault.
Not so much
Not
that.
Tony Hawk's. What am I talking about?
Tom Clancy's Hawks.
Tom Clancy's Hawks.
That is a completely different type of game.
Talk about a slip of the tongue.
Okay, I got to be honest. When you first said that, I was like, Tony Hawk Pro Skater meets Star Wars?
No.
Yeah, Hawks could be cool. Like
mission based.
Yeah, or
sorties.
Rogue Squadron.
Exactly.
Rogue Squadron with a multiplayer, online multiplayer. I know that's not incredibly different than Starfighter Assault, but you could expand on it and flesh it out more than Starfighter Assault is, and I think make something pretty compelling.
And one of the interesting things that the first Battlefront had in its Starfighter Assault was there were in-atmosphere starfights, right? Like there were starfighter battles in atmosphere.
Right, because they didn't go out in space.
Right.
Yeah.
All of the battles take place in space, if I'm not mistaken.
In 2?
In 2, with the exception of like Conquest. You fly the ship in atmosphere then.
Right.
But I always thought it was neat to have different physics for the starfighters if you're fighting in atmosphere versus in space. Not drastically different, but maybe there's more drag, or your acceleration is a little different, or maybe you have to lead your lasers a little more, or something like that. That whole you could really make a flight simulator with these minor changes between planets or backgrounds or environments, or you could play with gravity, having to slingshot around a sun or a black hole. There are all these things that you could do with a flight simulator, Star Wars, that doesn't necessarily have to be just fighting each other in starships.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And if they were going to go my preferred Star Wars route for a flight simulator type game, I've got the one in my mind I want them to do. But I don't know that you would consider it a quote-unquote smaller Star Wars experience. So King Tom and I were talking about this today on Twitter a little bit. And he said, well, what if it was more focused on galactic exploration? And what that made me think of is games like No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky and EVE Online, maybe.
Elite Dangerous is another one. What was it called back in the day? I think Freelancer? It was kind of, maybe it wasn't Freelancer, but anyway, it's these
Skylanders.
No, Skylanders.
I'm just kidding.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Spyro the Dragon is the answer.
Tony Hawk's. I thought you were just doing the Southern thing where you add an S onto the end of everything, so it's not Walmart, it's Walmart's.
Oh my God.
Or Tony Hawk's.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started today. I went to Walmart and had the worst experience of my life. I have never complained to the manager, but I was so mad that I came home and waited 15 minutes to talk to corporate about my experience at Walmart today. And I let them fucking have it.
Do you want to share?
I'm not that guy, bro. I'm not that guy.
Dude, me neither.
I always give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Me too.
When my servers, I still tip, I don't really ever give anybody a hard time. But they have all the checkout lanes closed, right? Like, nobody's checking anybody out. So it's all self-checkout, right?
Uh-huh.
And there is one person over these 10 self-checkout lanes. And, 6 of them pop red at the same time, right? So I have to wait. My asparagus wouldn't weigh up. So, and it's something about it just wouldn't give me the motherfucking asparagus. So I had to wait. And then she saw me and still saw 3 or 4 more people before me. And it's not like she just had to go over and scan their shit. She had to take their item back to her desk to do some more shit. And then I try to flag down somebody else, because I'm up front, customer service is right there and the greeter talking. And I'm like, hey, can one of y'all help me? And they're like, oh, you're going to have to talk to her. I can't. That's not my job. And I was like, oh, motherfucker. That's not your job. I just got to stand here and wait for somebody to get to me. So she finally comes over there, gets me going. I start scanning my groceries. And the child from the lady behind me scans one of their items as I'm doing something else. So I was like, oh, God. Now I have to delete it. And I go in and I delete their item. But guess what? I need the scan again. So I wait another goddamn 20 minutes for her to get through with the other 5 people that, before me or whatever. These machines are fucking up so often. You have got to have another person out there. I don't care. You have to have another I understand you want automated bullshit. You want to save some money on some checkers. Well, you need to have people solving these problems, because it took me twice as long to check out as it did to put the goddamn shit in my buggy. And that is unacceptable for multiple people to tell me it's not their job to help me. I'll go shop at fucking Kroger, all right? I will take my business elsewhere. fuck you, Walmart. I don't have to go to you. And I told them that. I was like, dude, this is a problem and you need to fix it because I will not be coming back to your store if this is my experience again. Like, and I will tell people not to come back to that store either because it's a shitty Walmart. And I was like, and I work in the service industry and I understand customer service, and that's the worst fucking service I have had in a long time. Like, I never call people about this shit, and they were like, sir, would you like to be called back about this? I was like, you know what? No. As long as you hear me and you make sure that this complaint is heard, I don't need you to call me back. I need you to fix the problem, or I won't be shopping at Walmart. And dude, I was hot. I was hot.
Buddy, I have not heard. You were hot. You just relived it all.
I did. I really did. I mean, it's all I'm trying to do is get out of here with groceries. And
you're like, I want this goddamn asparagus.
It's fucking asparagus, and I'm not like, I waited my time. I waited in my line to get to my self-checkout, and then I've got to, then I've got to wait even more. Like, can you guys not have people up here solving these problems? Like, you got to have one person over these 10 registers, each of which is malfunctioning over some stupid bullshit.
Yeah. Self-checkout gives me a little bit of anxiety because it's like playing that, what was that old game show where you tried to get no whammies? Where like
big money, no whammies.
Yeah, and using a self-checkout sometimes feels like playing that game, and I'm just dreading hitting the whammy when my self-checkout kiosk goes haywire. What'd you think of Clone Wars?
Masterstroke. It was wonderful. I really like Clone Wars.
Ooh. Do you need to go get a cold drink?
Oh, I'm gonna punch a hole through a wall, dude.
No.
I'm so angry that they did that to me.
My goodness.
And maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I was having but you know what? I wasn't having a bad day. I was enjoying my shopping trip. I had fun putting all that shit in the buggy.
Which is rare at Walmart.
Checking off the things on my list. Nobody really hassled me in the store. I found everything I needed.
Walmart has a bad reputation for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason Walmart has the reputation it does. And your experience at Walmart pretty much backs that up. I don't think.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to tell you. Jesse gets so frustrated with Walmart that, like, I was like, you know what we should just start doing? We'll just do grocery pickup at Walmart. Where you get on the app and you just pick out all your groceries. You pull into the parking lot and they bring them out to your car. Bing, bang, boom, you're done. You set a time, you go and park. It went beautifully for like a month, right?
And they can't get that shit right either, can they?
No. And then after like a month, Jessie would go and she would text me and be like, I'm still waiting at Walmart. One time she waited an hour and 15 minutes. And she was understandably very frustrated. She was like, I don't even want the groceries now. They've pissed me off so much.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I don't even know how to do a refund. I don't know if you can do a refund. So she stopped doing that. And they would get shit wrong or all kinds of stuff, right?
My mom did it last week, right? My mom placed order for groceries, and she pulls up, tells them her name. She's like, all right, I'm going to get your groceries. Like, waits like, all right, it's been like 30 minutes. And she's like, what's your name? Like, it's, it's still Sherry. Like,
right.
And like, oh, I gave your groceries to the lady parked next to you. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
yeah,
that is some dumb shit you gave away. I mean,
so you know what we started doing then? We started doing Amazon grocery delivery.
Oh, I bet that's better.
It is and it isn't. So it's all from Whole Foods, right?
Oh, see, yeah.
Which is totally fine, but it's so far from what we can figure out, it's kind of hard to specify certain things. So one night she wanted to order steak. We were going to have steak at home. And she ordered 2 steaks. And what they sent was one giant steak. A steak so big that she was like, I don't think this is going to fit in the cast iron.
They gave you a London broil or like
It was like a roast.
a roast is what they gave you.
Yeah. So,
Thanks for listening to Blue Harvest, a Star Wars podcast, the show that never has been and never will be sponsored by Walmart.
Dude, I'm sure, I don't know that I've ever heard a podcast sponsored by Walmart, but I don't know that I'd be interested in either. I think they're kind of a shitty company. Amazon's not better, you know? These big companies are all shitheads, but
I say this all the time.
Goddamn,
mankind is doomed until the focus is on the betterment of humanity as a species instead of the maximization of profit. As long as mankind continues to squeeze the maximum amount of profit from its brother, it's doomed to fail.
So speaking of a company that knows how to really squeeze maximum profit, Disney Plus. New home to Clone Wars. Clone Wars is back, baby.
Don't call it a comeback. It's been here for years.
So, Clone Wars is back. We're getting the
Like I said, they had the playlist that really helped me catch up.
Right.
Like the recommended essential Clone Wars catch up. You know, that's not what it's called, but that's what I felt like.
Okay, so here's a question. In that essential Clone Wars or whatever, did they have the arc about Clone 99?
Clone 99. The tumor?
No, not the. Are you thinking about the Order 66 arc?
Yeah.
No. Clone 99 was sort of a failed clone that looked kind of like an old man, and he worked at the Clone Academy on Kamino. Did you see that?
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay, I was just wondering, since that arc ties into this Bad Batch arc so much, I wondered if that would be part of it.
Is that older? Is that where they left Echo at the Citadel?
Yes.
Because I guess I picked up where I thought I had left off from Clone Wars, and that may have been just further back that I had seen, but it had been, years upon years ago.
Right. So in the Bad Batch, they're called Clone Squadron 99. They're named after 99. That's why I asked.
And the Bad Batch, by the way, is sick as fuck. Like all those
I think they're cool
clones, and they call themselves the Bad Batch, and they each have desirable mutations. Some of the names are a little hokey, but I mean, I get it.
I liked it all right as far as their
Wrecker
nicknames.
and Crosshair.
So I watched those first two episodes again this evening before we recorded, just to refresh myself. And you know what struck me is the Bad Batch kind of line up with your classes in Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
You
The
have
heavy, the sniper.
the specialist, which would be like tech, I guess.
Yeah.
Your assault, which would be Hunter, John J. Rambo in Star Wars.
I was about to say, that guy is Rambo. That's the Rambo soldier. Like, he's made to look like Rambo.
Mm-hmm.
Fights with a big-ass vibra knife or whatever.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I dig the Bad
cool.
Batch. So what did you think of the first episode? With King Kong, not King Kong. No, Hawes. King Tom, not King Kong. And I talked about it last week, but what did you think of the return, like that first episode?
It was great. It was a great episode because it had emotion and action and in equal parts. That second one kind of ends like on a cliffhanger, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And but I mean, you see what they're going for. Is the Spider Commander, is that Michael Dorn doing his voice, old Worf?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll look him up. That would be cool if it was.
It sounds like him to me. I've got an ear for voice actors.
Yeah, you're really good at that. I remember one time when I was playing the first Dragon Age game when we lived together, you're like, that's Spike from Cowboy Bebop doing that voice. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was.
Oh.
Shit, I drew a blank. How does it feel to be back in? So, in the time since Clone Wars went away, and now, we had Rebels and Resistance. How does it feel to be back in sort of the Clone Wars vibe to you, as opposed to being sort of in the whole Rebels and Resistance thing.
I kind of miss it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I really do. There's something about the Clone Wars and the way it's portrayed in the Clone Wars series that's very good. It's very, like, I know how it ends, so it's kind of tragic. The build, seems like it's building towards the victory of a Jedi, but it's not. And you get to see the arc of Anakin getting pissed off at Padme's old boyfriend that ran the banking planet.
What's that fucking dude's name? What a douche. I can't remember, but I know who you're talking about.
Anakin gets so pissed off. He beats the shit out of that guy. Like, and not that I like to see that, but it makes his inevitable fall so much more palatable.
Right. And it really, to me, Clone Wars enhances the prequels.
It really does.
In a really nice
as well.
way. I just, a matter of personal preference, I so much prefer the animation style of Clone Wars to the other two. And I was never someone who disliked the other two shows because of their animated style. I thought they did a fine job. Rebels got a lot better as it went on.
It's so stylized, but it feels so perfected by season 6,
Yeah. Well, when you go back and watch early episodes of Clone Wars versus, I would say 5, 6, and 7 seasons, 5, 6, and 7, it's night and day difference. They really upped their game. Like, some of those Night Sister arcs with Maul and Savage Opress and shit look amazing. Yoda's last arc in season 6, crazy good animation.
Crazy
stuff.
good, where Qui-Gon Jinn's teaching him how to, exist beyond the Force. That was an amazing arc, like amazing, and it explains basically what you have to do to exist beyond the Force, and how Qui-Gon Jinn led Yoda there. And Yoda was even doubting himself, like, I'm not even sure if this voice in my head is Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, I got to go figure this out.
Yeah, and that arc has one of my favorite moments in Clone Wars, when Yoda has like that dream or that vision where everything didn't go to shit, and he's at that tree on the Jedi Temple, and Qui-Gon and Dooku and all those folks are there.
Tempted by Serenity, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that. I thought that was really well done.
And then the Sifo-Dyas arc, where you basically get the knowledge that Sifo-Dyas was like crashed on a gangster spice planet.
The Pikes, and basically died. And, Dooku basically impersonated him to get the clone army made. Yeah, it really does a good job of
tying that loose thread up.
Yes, of explaining the whole Sifo-Dyas thing that's brought up in Attack of the Clones.
Saying, I was hired by a man named Tyrannus.
Right, on the moon of Bogda. So, there's, it really, once again, that stuff could have just as easily been in the prequels, but we got an answer. So that's all I really need. Because it was always sort of a mystery. Like, what is that whole Sifo-Dyas thing about?
The episode of Mace Windu and Jar Jar Binks. Great episode. I in the beginning of that episode, I was like, oh shit. Why am I watching this Jar Jar Binks episode? But like, I totally get it. It legitimized him as a diplomat to a culture that was spiritually close with the Force and was more accepting of him than the Jedi. I really like that idea that Jar Jar Binks is a diplomat within his own, space. He's good at what he's good at. The Force can use him just like a Jedi.
Yeah, and there's another arc. I don't know if it's well regarded, but it's one I enjoy, where it's Jar Jar impersonating a Jedi. Like, he's got to go save. He's got to do like a rescue mission, so he pretends to be a Jedi and like wears a robe and stuff. It's goofy, but I enjoyed it.
And him and Mace Windu like defeat a Night Sister, I believe, in that episode.
Yep. So, so what makes talking about this first arc of Clone Wars sort of difficult is more so than the other animated series. Clone Wars is so built around arcs, so it's hard to judge the whole Bad Batch thing until we get the last two parts. Right now, we've only seen half of it effectively.
I'm really not invested in Anakin, or Obi-Wan or Padme at this point in this season. I'm really kind of only invested in Rex and the Bad Batch. Yeah, and obviously Echo.
When you watch Clone Wars, it's very clear that there's like clone-focused episodes or Anakin-focused episodes or Asajj Ventress-focused episodes or Darth Maul, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. It's clear that this arc is heavy on the clones. I imagine we'll get more of the other characters in the next two arcs that are coming. I enjoyed the second episode quite a bit. You just mentioned it. I did really like the scene, though, where Rex is running a distraction for Anakin so he can talk to Padme, and then Rex calls him out on, or not Rex, Obi-Wan calls him out on it.
Right.
Where he's like, well, at least I hope you told Padme I said hello.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shit, that's smooth.
I was like, oh, put you on blast.
I like that part.
That was cool.
And
Anakin's hair's a little different, but I like it. Like it's
they definitely did a bit of
more towards the final, Return of the Sith,
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. I mean,
yeah, this season's definitely inching closer to that for sure. I mean, if you notice, even in that scene with Padme, that outfit that she's wearing is the same sort of outfit she wears to go confront Anakin on Mustafar.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's her like baby bump hiding outfit or something.
It's got to be, because she's not showing necessarily that much at the moment.
Right. So
I like that they have scheduled FaceTime dates that he's always late for.
Yeah. Well, because that's sort of I wouldn't say it's a question, but you wonder, like, so basically Anakin and Padme get married, and then he's off to fight in the Clone Wars
to war
for the next 3 years or so. So, like, how often do they actually get to see each other? It's probably not a whole lot. So they got to figure out something. And I do like that Rex is sort of in on it and helping
I like
his boy.
That even in the last couple seasons, the clones, they bring it up in the Order 66 arc about how the Jedi have encouraged problem solving and creative thinking in the clones, and therefore they're manifesting individuality.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, I like that too. And I'm really hopeful, and I think there's probably a pretty good chance of it, that as this series draws to a close, and as we saw in the trailer, it looks like we're into Revenge of the Sith time by the time this series ends. I hope we get to see Order 66 go down and Rex sort of, fight that programming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really cool.
Because he knows about it, or they don't know about Order 66. They know they have these tumors or whatever.
Yeah, they knew something's up. Which, the tumor thing, like, it's a really cool way to explain Order 66, but it's also, so it's basically
another biological explanation.
Like a biological control chip, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
What'd you think about the end of the episode when they found Echo?
It's real dark.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real dark.
Yeah.
Seeing his eyes, he looks all emaciated and his eyes rolling back in his head, and
he's all super pale and stuff.
Yeah.
It's real
I see what they're doing, and the whole concept of the Bad Batch, like defying the droid army's predictability algorithm, I guess, for the clones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're obviously scanning his brain or whatever, feeding him combat data and then seeing how he responds and extrapolating, clone movements from that. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's fucked up that they basically
wicked.
Captured this clone and think so little of him that they're basically just using him as a database or whatever.
Yeah,
it's fucked up, man.
Super fucked up.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
I couldn't tell if he robot from the waist down or just in like a weird suit.
I couldn't really make heads or tails of that either. No pun intended, I guess. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you.
But yeah, they gotta unhook him from the Matrix soon.
Yeah.
He
Speaking
needs
of
to
the
take the
Matrix,
red pill.
I watched the Matrix this week.
Did you really?
Yeah,
The original?
yeah. I watched that in the Animatrix. I'll probably watch fucking 2 and 3 at some point.
Those are probably my favorite two media of the Matrix.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say
that's kind of where I like to stop.
yeah, Matrix
I'll
and
watch.
Matrix, the original Matrix and Animatrix are definitely the two strongest things under that property. But see, what's going on is, they're filming the fourth Matrix right now, and they're filming some of it in public. So people are posting pictures of like Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss and
jumping
stuff.
off a building or whatever.
Yeah, doing stuff on set, and I was like, do I feel it? Do I feel the tug back to the Matrix again? Am I finding myself getting excited about a Matrix 4? And the answer is yes, because I went and fucking bought the whole set on Vudu, and I've been watching it this week.
Well, there you go.
I even bought Reloaded and Revolutions.
It's really not. I mean, it's not bad. Again, Revolution's
Pretty bad.
not. I mean, it's the weakest of the three, but I still don't understand how they're going to bring everybody back. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't
unless
either.
they exist only as spirits within the Matrix. Like seeing them as constructs within the Matrix isn't far fetched for me, but seeing them pulled out of the Matrix will be hard to believe. It'll
be interesting to see how it's just in general regarded. Like,
or maybe, cloning's a deal, so who knows?
Who knows? There's no telling. So it's been a while since I've seen part 3, but doesn't it end with them kind of being like, Neo will be back someday when the time is right? Or something like that?
But I'm pretty... I mean, isn't his body like...
The machine
skewered or something? Like they dissolve it or something?
I can't remember. I cannot remember that much.
It's Trinity that's got the rebar coming through her chest.
Right. So who knows? Yeah. So that's sort of my thoughts on Clone Wars. Will's thoughts on Clone Wars. We're really enjoying it. Glad it's back.
Super glad.
Really can't wait for the Siege of Mandalore stuff to kick off. We're still a little ways away from that, but that's the part that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Is good old Siege of Mandalore. Some Mandalorians, getting Darth Maul back in this piece, some Ahsoka stuff.
I wonder if any of that will tie into the Mandalorian show. You would think it would have to at some point.
I do. I don't know about directly tying in since it's so far apart,
I was about to say, I guess the Rebel stuff is more likely to tie into.
But I wouldn't be surprised if there is some, at least context given to things from The Mandalorian.
I need to hear one of them say, "This is the way."
For real. And, with Dave Filoni working on both, there's a good chance there will be some sort of connective tissue there. If I had to bet.
Is the Foundress... Do we know the Foundress is not Bo-Katan?
So, we don't know that, but you would think they would use the same voice.
You would think. And the thing about is the eye shield, like, there are parts of her helmet that are very similar. Like the eye... The T of the face that is the eyes and mouth shield seems very similar.
Yeah, but so does Sabine's.
That's true. I mean,
maybe that is just like
a standard female type.
Yeah, like
helmet.
a lady's Mandalorian helmet. I'm not sure if that's 100% always the case. I know, and one thing we like to do here at Blue Harvest is
some cockadoodie speculating.
Yeah, especially if that cockadoodie speculating ties into products. But I got a Funko Pop from The Mandalorian, and it's just called a Covert Mandalorian, and it's like a Mandalorian with like green and white armor, and it also has that same helmet type.
Okay, all right.
So it's not an uncommon helmet type, is what I'm saying. So I don't think that alone would rule her, would, make it be Bo-Katan. And like I said, you would guess that they would more than likely use Katie Sackhoff for the voice.
You would think. But I mean, the character Satine is supposedly based on Satine from Moulin Rouge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Inspiration for the Duchess Satine. The Ewan McGregor and the Satine romance in Moulin Rouge.
I did not know that. Learn something new every day. All right. So you want to jump in and do some voicemails and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
We have our buddy DeMarcus. He said, "Hey, Hawes and Will, pretty sure I missed the recording cutoff for this week. Forgot to touch on Project Luminous in the voice message. Definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully, if the books do well, we'll get movies set in that time period in the not too distant future. Have a great week, guys." And then he has this voicemail.
Hey, Hawes and Will, it's your buddy DeMarcus, and I've noticed over the last couple podcasts, the gaming side of Star Wars has come up a little bit more often, especially with Battlefront, which I love. So I had a couple questions for you guys and your thoughts on what you're thinking about the rumored Star Wars projects right now. So one, the most recent news would have been that there was an open world Battlefront spinoff that was canceled by EA last year. Kind of frustrating because that's the second open world Star Wars project that was canceled, I think. And I don't know, I just feel like open world Star Wars, take all my money. I feel like that's just common sense to do, but whatever. Anyways, but there is supposedly a rumor, and I think this was picked up by, I know for sure Kotaku, and I think maybe even IGN, that there is a smaller Star Wars project being worked on by EA Motive, that's Motive Studios, that's supposed to be coming out this year. Like, with fall, winter, whatever this year, at the end of this year. And here's a couple of things that's being said about it. Unique, more unusual, and it's a smaller project. So, of course, we know nothing right now, and I assume we'll find something out at Celebration, even if it's just a name. We'll know something at Celebration, and then maybe at E3 at EA's, big shebang, they'll show more on it. But it's unfortunate that it's a quote unquote smaller project. So I'm definitely going to temper my expectations. But what do you guys think, or what would you like to see, knowing that it's going to be on a smaller scale? What do you think it could be, and what would you guys like to see? I due to time, I'm already running kind of long here, so I don't even know where my mind goes when I think smaller. Initially I go mobile, but from the sounds of it, it's going to be a console game, I assume. If it's a mobile game, well, oh well. But what are you guys thinking? And thoughts on the second canceled open world project? Maybe this is the first one, and the news just got out a little bit later. And then the other thing that's being worked on is obviously the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Amazing game, that's obvious. But it's crazy to me that in all this time, there's only 2 Star Wars projects that's currently being worked on right now. With everything being canceled, and it's like EA really, and I'm not someone that hates EA. I mean, I enjoy a lot of the games. I mean, I know their practices, with grind or crunch and everything isn't great. So I don't agree with that. But I'm not someone that just kind of shits on EA. But gosh, man, the canceling of these Star Wars games is a little frustrating. But thanks for hearing me out, guys. Love the podcast, and may the force be with you.
So we talked about the smaller project a little at the beginning.
Talking about how we might like a flight simulator starfighter game.
Yeah. So
other than that, I'm trying to think of, a real-time strategy I would like, but that's not everybody. I could get down on a Halo Wars, Star Wars game.
Oh, me too. I'll tell you what I would be afraid of, and there's no indication that it's going this way. But, and honestly, I don't know how likely it would be to be something like this, because this type of game blew up for a hot second and then sort of faded off after there wasn't a whole lot of other success with like imitators, but would be essentially a digital collectible card game.
Oh, like Rage of Bahamut.
Well, more like Hearthstone is what I'm thinking. You know,
where you can actually play the game against each other.
Right. Well, Hearthstone is basically Blizzard's version of Magic. That's simplifying it a great deal, but for the sake of brevity, that's what it is. And there have been several imitators that have come out in, you know, the years since Hearthstone. There was an Elder Scrolls themed card game, a Fable themed card game. Valve tried to do one called Artifact, and none of them really hit the way that Hearthstone did. I think there's even a Lord of the Rings one.
Well, Hearthstone has like basically the it exists in the World of Warcraft world, right?
Yeah, like it's got that tie to that IP where your cards are well-known characters and creatures and spells and things from Hearthstone or from World of Warcraft.
To me, that's such a large fan base.
Yeah,
that I think that helps its viability.
Right, and Hearthstone, I think it's, if I had to guess, I don't follow it closely, but I bet you it is nowhere near its peak at what it was. I played the Hearthstone for a little while. It was a good time, but
Gwent was kind of popular there for a minute when The Witcher was going around.
Mm-hmm. I don't. So if they did one of those in Star Wars, it would not excite me. I would not be like, oh, I can't wait to see this. Now,
can't wait to get my rare Han Solo.
Yeah, watch me sticking my fucking foot in my mouth in 2 months when I'm on the podcast being like, guys, did you see the trailer for the Star Wars card game on Xbox, PC, and PS4?
Will, have you downloaded the app yet?
Well, regardless, you're going to be getting that text because it's our duty to check it out if that's what it is.
That's true. You said duty.
I'm not excited about the concept. I don't know that it's something that could really hold my interest for a long time. I would play it. I just really
my issue is the collecting issue. Mm-hmm. You know, like I loved Magic. I played the shit out of Magic the Gathering in high school, and I amassed quite a Magic card collection. But like every season, new cards come out and new strategies to obliterate my already existing decks. So like you basically have to continuously be buying cards to build decks. And I just don't have the cash flow or really the interest to continuously buy, you know, it's what I consider gambling. You know, like I consider the loot box and, you know, the Pokemon cards and the Magic cards, that's basically gambling. You're taking a risk. I mean, you're assured, you know, a certain number of rares, uncommons, and commons. Like, I get that it's a hedged bet, but you're still, every time you purchase a pack, you're betting, you know, hoping you get something good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's not necessarily my favorite approach and wouldn't be super stoked. Look, we were talking about it earlier before you got kicked off on your Walmart deal, but games like No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, Privateer was the other game I was trying to think of, where there is space combat involved, but it's not necessarily the focus. It's about getting your ship and exploring, and you can do anything. You could be, you could haul cargo, or you could smuggle, or you could be a bounty hunter, or you could do any of these other things, right?
Seems like a very singular experience.
Right. I don't think we're in for something of that scale because I don't think you would call that quote unquote smaller. But man, that concept in Star Wars would be sick. You start off with a little rinky dink ship. You take some jobs, you earn some credits. Maybe you work for the Empire. Maybe you smuggle for the Rebellion. Maybe, you know, all these different open-ended space exploration in Star Wars, buying new ships and upgrade them. Like, I could get into that big time.
What if it's a battle royale looter shooter? 100 people on a Star Destroyer, last man standing wins.
Why would you do this to me, Will?
What?
I don't want that.
No? You don't want to be looting for upgraded sites for your
E11.
E11?
Look, I'm not here to talk shit about PUBG or Fortnite. I played a lot of PUBG, a little bit of Fortnite, and I enjoyed my time with them. I'm not here to talk shit about them. I don't want Star Wars to go down the Battle Royale route. For one, I think it's too late. Like,
yeah, strike while the iron is hot. The
Right.
iron isn't necessarily hot anymore.
yeah, that is a very 2017 idea for Star Wars.
I'm just spitballing off the term Maverick.
Yeah.
Because it makes me think of a singular. It kind of makes me think of Han Solo. Like, what if it's just a Han Solo video game, and it's named Maverick as like a code name.
Okay, so speaking of a game type that was big, and the time to do this type of game would have been before now, what I would have loved for them to do is a Telltale style episodic story game.
That'd be cool, like a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Almost like, like how Telltale did The Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us
Batman.
and Batman and things like that. That for Star Wars, and even better, do it set in the Clone Wars and ape the Clone Wars animated style.
Oh, wow, that'd be cool.
But the problem with that is you couldn't give too much wiggle room with the whole choose your own, make your own choices and stuff, because they'd want it to adhere to canon. So your choices would be more limited than, say, in other, other games of that nature. But I could have seen that being really cool,
And I will say the Force Unleashed and the Force Unleashed 2 were cool, even though I knew they were non-canonical. I don't know if they were intended to be canon at the time, but I kind of just assumed that they were not canon, even playing them. I still had a good time doing that.
Playing the first one, because, I recently replayed it within the last few months for Masters of Harvest Kasi. And you can see how that one fits better in Star Wars canon. It still gets a little muddy. Now, by the time you get to Force Unleashed 2, that's where it gets real screwy with Star Wars canon.
Yeah.
Like where the light side ending is the rebellion capturing Darth Vader and shit.
Yeah.
Like you're going
killing the Emperor or whatever.
Yeah, you don't necessarily kill the Emperor. You do in the dark side ending, you kill Darth Vader and take his place.
Right.
As like the Emperor's apprentice. You do that. I think that's basically how 1 and 2's dark side endings go. I still wonder how they would have where they would have taken that story had Force Unleashed 3 ever come about. That would have been something to see. I know at one point, one of the people that worked on, I can't remember which one of the sort of heads that worked on Force Unleashed 1 and 2 said that at one point they were exploring the concept of a co-op Force Unleashed 3 where one person would be playing as Star Killer and the other person would be playing as Darth Vader.
Interesting.
That could have been an interesting concept.
Could have.
All right. Next up, we got a voicemail from Utah Dougy.
Hawes and Will, it's Dougy calling in, or King Tom, whoever's there today. I was reading some articles, and another Utah fun fact. Part of episode 8 on Crate, the Salt Flats, was filmed in Utah, just part of it. So there's a little connection there. And I was wondering if you guys were to ever have a Star Wars film and be a producer, and you could pick one place to film where you have been physically, where you have visited, to put in a Star Wars movie, what would that be? Where would you pick? And it has to be somewhere you have traveled to, not somewhere you've looked up or Googled, but somewhere you physically have been to. What would be the best fit for Star Wars? Appreciate the podcast. Check you guys later.
Ooh.
Ooh, I'm going to show my lack of travel.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, damn, I don't know. Wait, yeah, that's a tough one for me.
New
You know?
Orleans.
Yeah, like, what am I going to film in New Orleans? How do you make that look alien?
I mean, if we go with just the premise like seedy, dirty bayou, I can get down with that. You know, Star Wars it
Yeah.
up.
You know, like, part of me says, like, nah, man, do it in, like, rural Mississippi. Bring Star Wars to Mississippi.
Where it's hot, where there's no wind,
Yeah,
lots of cicadas.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a tough.
Where one of the stormtroopers says, "Mighty warm today."
Yeah, yeah. It's weird because like, so I've been to, I've been to a lot of places in the States, not a ton, but I've been, traveled a bit in the States. As far as out of country travel, I've only ever been to, Mexico and the Dominican Republic. You could film a Star Wars there. You'd basically be doing Scarif again, though. At least the parts of Mexico and Dominican Republic I went to.
That's true.
The more resorty parts. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, Dougie. We don't have like a cool alien that I can think about. We don't necessarily have a cool alien sort of setting like the Salt Flats in Utah that you could see being otherworldly. Like maybe somewhere up in the mountains would be kind of cool. Have we really seen, I mean, I know we've seen mountainous areas, but have we really seen like a...
Nobody trekking through the mountains.
Yeah, deep foresty.
Ray has the little like training run on kind of like a big hill or whatever, but like the Appalachians.
Yeah, somewhere up there. That may be kind of cool. Make for like a pretty area. I wish I traveled more. Be like, oh, I don't know, Chicago? Where's Star Wars Celebration? Orlando! We're going to go to Orlando. Oh, man.
Giant theme park planet.
Unrelated to Dougie's question, I got to tell you a story that happened to me this week.
Okay.
So I was out of town working, and Tuesday I'm driving home, right? And my phone starts ringing in my lap, like I'm getting text. I'm driving. I'm not going to look at those texts, right?
Right.
And then Jessie calls me. So I answer the phone, and she goes, hey, did you see my text messages? And I said, I didn't. What's going on? And she goes, I'm in the backyard with a baby raccoon right now.
Oh, wow.
And I go, what? And she goes, I brought the dogs outside, and they freaked out, started barking at something, and I looked, and there was a baby raccoon climbing our fence. And I said, how small is it? She said, it's like Luna-sized. So we're talking about a small raccoon, right?
Right.
And then she goes, I put the dogs up. I took some pictures of it so you could see it. And she said on my end, all she could hear was the engine in the car revving. I started driving real fast. I was like, I'll be there soon. Just wait on me. I'll be there before. Just keep an eye on it. I'm coming. I'm coming as fast as I can. You know me.
You got
and
so
raccoons.
excited.
I did. There's a baby raccoon in my yard, Will. Now, when in my mind, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to go capture this baby raccoon. I would never do that. What I'm thinking is, I go home, I grab some snacks, I feed the baby raccoon, I pet the baby raccoon, we develop a friendship, and now occasionally every couple nights a raccoon comes up to my back door for some treats. This is what I'm thinking.
Totally possible.
Right? I'm not trying to capture this raccoon. I just want to pet it. Yeah, I would have been fine just seeing it in person. I get home, and he's gone. He's run away. I was so close to seeing a raccoon in person, to being close. And I would have spent all damn day.
The raccoon would have died from an exploded stomach or all the treats you've been giving it.
No, I wouldn't. Well, I hope I wouldn't have hurt the fellow with my treats. I'm sending you a picture of him right now. Oh, damn. Jason just sent me a text message with a article that says Man confirmed with coronavirus attended sold-out Auckland rock concert Tool last week.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That sucks.
There he is. He doesn't look like much of a baby, but I'm far away.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my questions about the legitimacy of those claims. He looks pretty small, though.
He's scrawny, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just starting to warm up and stuff, so they don't hibernate all winter. I know my raccoon, but they do sleep for a while when it gets real cold. So that's probably why he was out in the day.
Right.
Probably. Well, what he was doing was our neighbor passed away, right?
No, I didn't. Oh, Barbara?
Yeah. And we've been feeding her. She had one outside cat left. She used to have half a dozen. Like when we first moved into this house, she had so many. And then over time, the number dwindles down. She's got one left, and our other neighbor asked if we minded taking care of that cat. Well, of course not. We'll feed the outside cat. He was going after that cat food.
Right.
So let's just say maybe there's been a little extra cat food left out for my raccoon buddy. I'm trying, Will. Trying to make friends with this fool.
You'll get there. Just don't get scratched.
I'm going to do my best.
Or get your rabies shot.
I'm going to do my best to only pet him when I feel like he's ready. You know what I mean? I'm going to take my time, establish a bond when he knows this dude doesn't want to hurt me. He just wants to give me peanut butter sandwiches and Oreos and shit. I would try to feed him something healthier than that. Some grapes. I don't know. Tomato. I don't know. A peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, that sounds like it would work. All of it.
Yeah,
I mean, the guys eat trash.
I was about to say they're not known for their culinary pickiness.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have one more voicemail and then a few emails to tackle. First up, this is Jim. Let's hear what Jim has to say.
Hey, Hawes and Will. When I was talking to you last week about the hype dying for Mandalorian, I meant hype dying for Baby Yoda. I think it's about as high as it's going to get. I'm in because of Din. I'm a Mandalorian fan. I love Baby Yoda, but I love the Mandalorian. It's going to be great. I'm excited for season 2. But what I wanted to talk about was the Bad Batch and how they are a force to be reckoned with for sure. But if they are around and we see Order 66, do you think that we're going to see Order 66 in this final season of Clone Wars? I'm bummed that it's the final season. Final season, Resistance, their final saga, end of the Skywalker saga, all these finals, and I am very excited about the High Republic. I think that it's cool to create this new canon in books, and then hopefully, based on the favorites, they can use a variation of it and put it on screen. And I think it'd be really neat. I'm very, very excited for that. I almost want Yoda not to be in it because just let it be completely detached. But then they put in young Yoda and he's kicking ass. I'm like, oh fuck, I'll shut my mouth. But I'm excited either way. But do you think that the Bad Batch will be kicking ass on Order 66 or not? All right, man. Gentlemen, ignite the green.
Thanks, Jim. I think we'll definitely see Order 66 in this season.
Sadly, I think we will, yeah.
Yeah, I if I had to guess, like we were talking, I think the angle we'll see Order 66 from is more from the Rex resisting Order 66 and helping Ahsoka go into hiding and stuff. Sort of things we know have happened, but we haven't seen on screen yet. I don't know if we will see the Bad Batch participating in Order 66. Be fucked up if we did, though. Do you ever? Let me ask you this, Will. When you see Commander Cody in the Clone Wars,
Yeah,
do you have a reaction of that motherfucker?
I do.
Me too.
I really do.
Every time, like Rex, I'm like, all right, Rex, we're cool.
Rex, you're cool.
Yeah. Commander Cody, I see that fucker and I'm like,
You asshole.
You shot at the booga. Isn't that what that big lizard is called? The booga?
I think so. I don't know.
Fuck you, Commander Cody.
Tried to kill my boy Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Yeah. Right after you gave him his lightsaber back and you're like, well, I think you'll be needing this. Yeah. He will be needing this. Cut your ass in half. All right. Next up, we got an email from Dylan. Hey, guys. Recently saw the news about the rumored new Star Wars movie set to take place on Exegol. Having had this hit just days before the Project Luminous drop got me thinking. It'd be really neat to see the High Republic era Jedi happen across Exegol and discover the darkness there. It would give Palpatine's interest in the planet and his part in the rise of Skywalker in general just a little more in neat depth. Maybe even go the route of possibly the Jedi face a defeat on the planet. That would also give more weight to Rey's victory. Just some thoughts I had. Placing my bets before Monday, haha. Anyways, thanks for the content. Can't wait for more news so we can all speculate. Thanks, Dylan. Oh, Dylan, you know what we like to do around here on Blue Harvest. We like to do some cock-a-doodle speculating.
That would give Exegol relevance.
So, unfortunately, this whole rumor about the new Star Wars movie being in the works from, I can't remember their names. We talked about them last week. Remember it broke right after we recorded. You sent me the article.
Right.
So there was this weird thing where I can't remember whether it was Variety or Hollywood Reporter reported the story first. And they had this line about like the subject matter of the movie and all of that is hidden deep within the mysterious depths of Exegol. Like a little flavor text, like a little jokey line. And then Deadline, I believe, ran an article being like, it's about Exegol. The new movie's about Exegol. So what happened was they took that joke seriously and tried to run it as their own story. So it's been confirmed that that's not true. The whole Exegol movie idea is not true. Those two guys may still be involved in Star Wars, but they're not necessarily working on an Exegol-related movie.
Right.
However, it would be cool to see Exegol make some kind of appearance in the High Republic era. Even if it's the Jedi not finding it, if it's just showing us what's going on there, maybe that's the base of operations for whatever spooky doings are going on in the galaxy at the time, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get some more information and, sort of like context to the whole Exegol thing.
Right.
All right. Next up, we have one from our buddy Johnny. Not Johnny Grosso. I kind of said that like Johnny. Hey, Hawes and Will. Hope all is well. I have a question that's been bugging me for the last few days. In Phantom Menace, Yoda tells Mace that there are always only two Sith. Surely he wouldn't have known about the rule of two, seeing as the Sith were operating in secret until Plagueis and Sidious started working within the Senate. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this. Cheers, Johnny. Please visit the Life Debt blog and podcast at mystarwarslifedebt.tk. I don't know how that works out.
In the Phantom Menace, he says, always two there are, a master and an apprentice. Mm-hmm. And Mace Windu kind of agrees, like he already knows, I guess. Also, in the Yoda arc in Clone Wars, he goes to the tomb of Darth Bane, and talks to the spirit and says, yeah, I know who you are. And, you're the one that enacted the rule of two. So clearly Yoda knows that.
Okay. So what if this is the scenario? Okay, a little piece of trivia. Darth Bane, Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yep, that's who did the voice of Darth Bane's spirit or whatever.
That's cool.
Okay, what if at some point after the rule of two was enacted, the Jedi thought they defeated the Master and the Apprentice. So they knew about the Rule of Two, but they defeated who they thought were the Master and Apprentice, and that's why they think the Sith aren't around anymore. Because it does make it weird if the Sith haven't been seen in a millennia, right?
Right.
And Darth Bane comes up with the Rule of Two to keep the Sith secret, and because I don't, who knows how much of this is considered canon anymore, but it was, I believe it was established that the reason Darth Bane comes up with the Rule of Two is because when the Sith were more than two, when there's like a Sith empire, they constantly just sort of stabbed each other in the back. They couldn't get anything done because Sith craved power, and they were just fighting amongst themselves.
The self-consuming serpent.
Right. The Ouroboros. Isn't that what that's called?
I believe you're correct.
So, I don't know. It is kind of hard to square up. So, because that means if he created the Rule of Two to help keep the Sith in hiding, he wasn't that successful if Yoda and Mace know about it. So they had to know about it at some point, but also they had to be under the impression that the Sith had been gone for a millennia or hadn't been seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is a interesting wrinkle.
The ancient times are always the interesting wrinkles for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I bet the High Republic shines a little light on all that. But like you said, the Sith can't really be a villain. It'll be the Nile, I assume.
Right. Who could be tools of the Sith that are in power at that time?
And as long as the Sith and Jedi never meet, you know,
or if they do, the Jedi don't. Whatever Jedi meets them, don't make it out.
Don't survive. It would make sense that they hadn't been seen.
Right. All right. Next up, we have an email from Eric Strothers. Dearest Halls and Will, in regard to King Tom's voicemail about Rey's staff and her own saber, I'm glad he sent it because it reminded me I had a thought about her staff too. I saw it as her hanging on to this element of her past and her sense of identity, sometimes to her detriment because it's so in the way. Her lightsaber would then represent her letting most of her past go, keeping just enough to remember where she started. As far as her lightsaber, I think it's single-bladed. You can see an emitter window under the end of the blade. Under the end the blade comes out, and there isn't one on the other end. Also, the rotary activation switch doesn't appear to have a male on the other end. Her underhead style is more like a two-saber style, one in each hand like Ahsoka, or that of a knife fighter, which would probably be one in each hand too. Anyway, King Tom rules, you guys rule. All the best, Eric. See, that's
those are some technical observations that I was not able to make.
Yeah, and you know why Eric makes lightsabers. So of course he would see this shit.
He would know.
It's like every time I see a dude in a wheelchair in a movie, and I'm like, he's not doing that right. That wheelchair guy, they need me. I need to be the wheelchair consultant on movies.
You're moving your legs too much.
Yeah, you're pussyfooting around everywhere. Not pussyfooting, pussyfooting. It's like where you push with your feet, or you're not grabbing the wheels right. I see these things all the time. It drives me crazy. So Eric, he would see a new lightsaber and be like, how do I build that shit? Oh, let's look at some details here. Got it. So he comes in with the good information right there.
Yep.
It'd be cool to see Rey dual wield.
I miss the lightsaber forms. I know I don't think that's canon anymore, but like, you know, her backwards handed lightsaber form was a specific one, and the Vapad was one, and Master Sindralig. I actually saw him in the Clone Wars.
Nice.
The lightsaber master, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And in that Yoda arc, by the way, Ki-Adi-Mundi is the biggest doubting Thomas there is, dude. Like, I was hoping he would redeem himself, but just at every turn, he's like, No, Yoda's probably crazy. He's probably just hearing shit. It's a Sith trap.
They can't ever.
Jedi, be cool.
I know, man. They can't ever do any. Like, make him cool in Clone Wars for us, guys. Give us something to hold on to. Give us something to talk about. But no, you gotta. I know, man. King Tom and he brought it up on Twitter. I can't remember if it was about that exact arc, but he brought up Kia D being a dick in Clone Wars at one point.
He's the king poo-pooer of poo-pooers.
He's that guy that like comes to the party and is like, this music sucks.
You know, their first album was much better than their first album.
This food is too salty. Like, you know what I mean? There's always that person at a big party.
After he put some salt on it.
Yeah. Can we change the music?
I'm not really feeling this.
You're not at your house, buddy. That's Kia D. All right. So that's it for our voicemails and emails. I'm going to do a quick check. Make sure that none came in while we were recording or just before, so we don't miss anybody. It looks like we're good. So I wanted to address one thing. This is going to be pretty big spoilers for the Rise of Skywalker novelization. So if you're looking forward to reading that and are wanting to go in completely spoiler-free, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. You're the best. If you're sticking around, then I assume you either don't care if you've already seen this stuff going around. I didn't know if Will had gotten wind of any of this, so I wanted to clue him in.
I don't think I have. I may have heard one tidbit or so, but...
So what happened was at a con last weekend, they gave out, or they were selling early copies of the novelization, which still doesn't come out for a couple of weeks. So people have been able to get their hands on that and, sort of clue us in on some interesting details. So, one of the questions we've had since seeing the Rise of Skywalker was, how does Palpatine, how's he there? How does that all work? And we've had, our theories here and there, discussed it. Is it a clone? Is it, just his spirit inhabiting some fucked up corpse?
Yeah, I did. I think I saw what you were talking about.
So,
this part where Kylo Ren comes in and...
Yeah. You want me to read the part from the book?
Yeah.
What could you give me? Kylo asked. Emperor Palpatine lived after a fashion, and Kylo could feel in his very bones that this clone body sheltered the Emperor's actual spirit. It was an imperfect vessel, though unable to contain his immense power. It couldn't last much longer. Emperor Palpatine's a clone. It's a clone of Emperor Palpatine.
Whose spirit and power are degrading the clone?
Yeah. It's Dark Empire.
I was about to say, is that not already established in Legacy somewhere?
Yeah, in a very similar fashion. There's no denying it. It's not exact because in Dark Empire, Palpatine had a ton of clones. The cloning was very successful. So there were all these young Palpatine bodies, and he would transfer his spirit into those bodies, and then slowly over time, they would decay because of his dark side power. And in this, it seems like it's a similar thing, but they never got a good clone of Palpatine, which made things difficult. It was imperfect clones. There's more that I could read you, okay?
Okay.
So... in the scene, to give this some context, where Rey is faking out that she's about to strike Palpatine down, she starts sensing these memories and gets basically this vision. And it says, wave after wave of triumph emanated from him. And along with it came knowledge, memories. Maybe it was their shared blood that enabled her to see his thoughts, but somehow she could, and Rey saw it then, how he'd done it. What he was about to do again. Falling down a massive shaft. The betrayal sharp and stinging. A figure high above. Black cloud and helmeted and shrinking fast. His very own apprentice had turned against him. The way he had turned against Plagueis, whose secret to immortality he had stolen. Plagueis had not acted fast enough in his own moment of death, but Sidious, sensing the flickering light in his apprentice, had been ready for years. So the falling, dying emperor called on all the dark power of the Force to thrust his consciousness far, far away to a secret place he had been preparing. His body was dead, an empty vessel, long before it found the bottom of the shaft, and his mind jolted to a new awareness in a new body, a painful one, a temporary one. It was too soon. The secret place had not completed its preparations. The transfer was imperfect, and the clone body wasn't enough. Perhaps Plagueis was having the last laugh after all. Maybe his secret remained secret, because Palpatine was trapped in a broken, dying form. So there you go. Palpatine sends his consciousness off into one of these clones, but they hadn't successfully cloned, so he transfers himself into a fucked up body. That's where the one sort of like wrinkle and difference to the whole Dark Empire thing comes in.
When he downloaded to his backup, the files were corrupted.
Yeah, he backed himself up to like a USB drive that had been dropped in a puddle instead of like a nice solid state Seagate hard drive or some shit.
And several sizes smaller than he needed teraflops.
Yeah, and it was like a 32 meg.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to leave the fingers off. Going to have to leave the fingers off these files. So, I've seen people going back and forth. Some like the explanation. Some are disappointed. Personally, I'm just glad to have an explanation. Should it have been in the movie? Absolutely.
Yes.
This is not me saying this makes everything right. I'm not fucking, trying to say that. But it's an explanation. And that's what I wanted. So I have one. And once again, not saying this is enough. In the movie, Charlie from Lost does say, cloning, dark sciences. When they bring up, like, how could the Emperor be back? Charlie from Lost is like, cloning, dark sciences, secrets only the Sith knew. So they did kind of say it in the movie. Is it good enough? No, not saying that. But it's there in a fashion.
The one weird thing that Rise of Skywalker did was it established that the Sith are like a household name. Like, everyone knows who the Sith are. Like, you don't have to be a Jedi, like.
Well, you got to figure that, Sith are part of history. There was a Sith Empire, So would it be akin to us knowing about, like, the Roman Empire or the Mongolian Empire or anything like that, right? And then you had a Sith ruling the galaxy for 20-something years or whatever.
But supposedly nobody knew that, right?
But did they know post-Empire in the Republic? Did that news get out that Emperor Palpatine was a Sith? Could have very well. Who knows?
Yeah, I can imagine that's part of an information campaign of the New Republic.
Yeah. All right. So we got one more thing to cover. A bunch of clone talk, whether it be Bad Batch clones or Palpatine clones. All right, you ready? I got one more thing. Now, this one, I'm not going to give you any lead information on. The heretics of the Sith Eternal toiled, splicing genes, bolstering tissue, creating unnatural abominations in the hope that one of those strand cast would succeed and become a worthy receptacle. The heretics would do anything, risk anything, sacrifice anything to create a cradle for their God consciousness. Nothing worked, but their efforts were not entirely in vain. One genetic strand cast lived, thrived even, a not quite identical clone, his son, but he was a useless, powerless failure. Palpatine could not even bear to look upon such disappointing ordinariness. The boy's only worth would lay in continuing the bloodline through more natural methods.
So Rey's father was basically what Palpatine considered a defective clone, but probably a more natural clone.
Basically, Rey's dad was a clone of Palpatine. A not identical clone, so that it's a cute little workaround to be like, I don't know that guy looked like a young Ian McDermott in that flashback. Well, it's because he's not an identical clone. And Palpatine had new use for him because he didn't have any connection to the Force. That's what that tells me.
Yes.
So
I like the term strand cast.
I do too.
Because I'm pretty sure Queel said something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is that the first time we heard that was in The Mandalorian when he thinks that Cara Dune is a strand cast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Or when he says he knows that the Baby Yoda isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't look like a
strand cast. And then he says something to the effect of, if anybody was a strand cast, I thought it would have been you. I can't remember exactly.
Right.
But yeah. Now, what I'll tell you, once again, should this stuff have been in the movie? Yes. Now, we've established that. Am I in the clear, guys? Should have been in the movie. I like it. I like the idea of these Sith cultists.
I trade the Chewbacca fake out death for all this stuff.
So would I. In that gallon of tears on opening night when I thought they killed Chewbacca. Yeah, it should have been in there, but I like it. I like the explanation. I like the idea of these Sith cultists toiling away, trying to produce a clone body that not just can contain the essence of Sidious, but once again, remember, thousands of generations of Sith. All the Sith live inside that clone body. That's why that's another reason it's probably decaying so fast, you know?
Yeah, that's...
It brings in, like, the kind of weird sci-fi fantasy shit I like in Star Wars. And had they established that in the movie, like, imagine. And you could see how maybe it would have played weirdly, because in that moment is the reveal that she's passing Ben the Saber. So it might have been weird to have her go into a vision of Palpatine sending his spirit out into a clone body and them trying, et cetera, all that stuff we just read. It might have been weird pacing wise, or, you know, there might have been a better place to cut it, but imagine seeing that in the movie. That would have been cool. I think that would have been neat, personally.
I mean, you know, Ben has the mind reading ability, and they have the dyad, so you think the two of them could share some little extra dimensional conversation, time stop or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they could have figured out a way to do it, I think. I would have loved to see it. But once again, I'm just happy to have an explanation. Would I prefer the explanation in the movie? Yes, but an explanation.
I'm just glad they provided me with an explanation to provide to all the people that are like, how the fuck did that happen? So now I can tell you, finally.
You know what it reminds me of before we go? So, watching Lost, right? One of the questions, obviously this question in Lost is not as major as how the fuck is Palpatine back in episode 9. Obviously it's not. But remember, one of the questions they never answered through the series is like, why are there random drops of Dharma food packages on the island? Remember, like, Hurley finds the big pallet of food that's been dropped on the island with a parachute?
Yeah.
They never explain that in the series. Well, once the series comes out on Blu-ray, they did that epilogue, The New Man in Charge, and it answered it in that. That was enough for me. I had the answer. Could that have been in the series proper? Sure. But in a lot of ways, that's what it reminds me of. Once again, not the best analogy, but man.
Lost. I saw some about the High Republic. There's this blonde Jedi, and some people were like, that looks like Juliet from Lost. I was like, the Hawes does not want to hear that.
I haven't heard that comparison. I've heard her compared to looking like the lady who plays Doctor Who now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's a good actress.
It could. I think that is a more likely inspiration than the lady that played Juliet in Lost. But I don't know. Maybe. All right. Well, I think that does it for us this week. Thanks for recording with me, buddy.
Dude, thanks for having me on. It was good to be back.
Yeah, so next week we'll talk about episode 3 of Clone Wars and Rise of Kylo Ren number 4 and whatever happens between now and then. If it's anything like a couple weeks ago, everything will drop Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know. We'll see what happens. I'll get on my phone now and be like, oh shit, they announced a new director or something.
Check out my free will Kickstarter because I burned Walmart to the ground.
I think it might be Will versus the giant corporation. That might be our episode title this week.
That might be.
All right, guys. If you like the band that has been kind enough to provide our theme song music, check them out. They're Stoned Cobra. They're on Bandcamp at stonedcobra.bandcamp.com. They're also on iTunes and Spotify. Check them out. And leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you haven't already. And until next week, this has been Blue Harvest, and I'm your host, Hawes Burkhart.
And I'm your host, Will Whitten.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with all of you.
May the Force be with us.